Welcome everyone to HSMAI Los Angeles. Today we have a really great program for you. Our webinar today is Website and E-Commerce Strategies, How to Lead the Comp Set in 2022. I'm Mitch Woolley, Director of Operations for eMarketing Associates and also your chapter president for HSMAI Los Angeles. Welcome. And our illustrious board of directors here, Samantha Rodriguez, who is our immediate past president. We have on the call with us today Libby Zarahi, who is our VP of Programs and Education, Jennifer Pochedli, who is our VP of Membership, David Barnett, VP of Finance, Craig Carbonaire, yay, he's on the call today with us. He's our VP of Social Media, Yvonne Miner, who's our VP of Sponsorships, Jody Flowers, who's on the call with us today, who's VP of Student Affairs and COVID Recovery, and finally, last but not least, our Managing Director, Sandra Martinez. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over right now to our moderator today, who's Libby Zarahi, Director of Sales and Marketing at Hotel Amarano. Libby, would you like to take it away?
Mitch, thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. We've got such a rich program with great content today. I'm really looking forward to participating. Today's webinar, of course, is on website and e-commerce strategies, how to lead the comp set. And I think for any owner of any hotel, that is something that's extremely topical and on task as we prepare for our 2022 business plans. As we go through today's venue, just a couple of housekeeping reminders. If you kindly mute your audio unless you're speaking, that will avoid the vibration of the talking and reduce any background noise. If you have questions, we encourage you to put them in the chat box. And I promise you we're going to be watching those throughout the presentation, and we'll bring them back up at the end for Tammy to be able to address. With regard to our global presence, just a reminder of our HSMAI resources. We have a special renewal promotion going on right now. It's continuing. So now through September 30th, anyone who renews their membership using the promo code SUMMER gets 2 additional months of membership. That's highly valuable. You will find that when you go in to take advantage of this offer, you may have to put the promo code where it says promo code or referred by. But either way, you should be able to get the award of the additional 2 months. And I often go into the global site to get updates on recovery resources for coronavirus. And of course, we have the variant going on right now. So they do their absolute best to keep us on task with what the updates are. So that's in the real world. In the educational world, we want to remind everybody of our career development online educational resources and the certifications. There's probably 5 or 6 good ones. I'm doing 2 right now with the hope that I get them done. It's on my bucket list to get them done by December 31st to go into the new year fresh and educated. So thank you for that. Tammy will talk a little bit more about this at the end, but a reminder that we do have several global in-house person events. Face-to-face will be the Marketing Strategy Conference, September 28th, which is in Dallas, followed by a lot of the same attendance, of course, the Revenue Optimization Conference, which is often known as ROC. It's a very powerful conference. And if you want to surround yourself by great minds that deal with revenue strategy every day, this is the conference to do so. I have attended one and I was blown away. It's a lot of information to absorb, but what bookmark of time do you ever get to advantage those type of brilliant minds that work with this on a daily basis? Highly encouraged. So I want to take just a few minutes to talk about Tammy, who's going to be our featured speaker today. I don't even want to call her featured speaker because she's a real educator. She's a real connector of people and information. She's a digital thought leader, and her career has spanned over 20 years in sales and digital roles at major branded hotels such as Westin, Wyndham, and then eventually with Milestone, where she brings her digital expertise to hundreds of hotels, and she works with them on a daily basis. Currently, she heads the hospitality division for Milestone and is responsible for digital marketing engagement with major customers and our hotel groups. That's me. Tammy is, or that's us. Tammy's a widely regarded hospitality marketing expert and is a regular speaker in contributing to conferences. So we're very lucky to have her today. She's also a member of HSMAI's Marketing Advisory Board and a winner of the prestigious 25 Extraordinary Minds in Hospitality Sales Marketing Revenue Management. So to me, she's a celebrity. And she's very accessible to all of us. I know we're seeing her on the widescreen today, but I recommend to those of you that have not begun a dialogue with Tammy to message her through LinkedIn, so you might engage with an industry professional that can help you breathe in the world of technology. Tammy, we are so excited to have you with us today and have you share your brain trust with us. So please take it away. And again, welcome.
Libby, that was such a kind introduction. First, and thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for letting me hang out with you for today. I think I first met Libby several years ago when Libby heard actually one of our colleagues speak at a event you were part of Interstate, I think, back then, and had reached out to us about speaking. And I handled the West Coast at the time. I came down and spoke, and we've just over the years, we did stuff with the All California Conference. And I hold dear in my heart this chapter because I've done a lot of great things with you guys. So I appreciate you letting me come back, that you're not bored with me yet. And the goal today is really to highlight some website and e-commerce strategies. We're going to take a little tactical approach. For the most part, there's some theoretical in here as well, but really trying to give you guys some insights into how you can really continue to grow out of this pandemic and drive more direct revenue from the website and really help outpace your competition. And the good news is, those of you on the call, like, you got a lot more insight than your competition does. So I think it'll serve you well. Libby did all the rah-rah Tammy. So I'm just going to echo that, ask the questions, put them in the chat box as we go along. I also have it up and we'll try and keep an eye out for. Sometimes if I can, I'll answer midstream. Other times we'll cover at the end. And if we don't get a chance to cover everything, we'll definitely, like Libby said, reach out. You can reach out to me. You can also reach out to my colleague, Craig, who I think some of you know. Everybody knows Craig is also on the call. Feel free to reach out to us. And the slides will be available to the chapter. So Libby and Mitch, I'm sure we'll share these, distribute these out as appropriate. I'm going to start just with a very high level trends. I think, I thought about doing the slide that has all of the headlines of COVID sucks. I'm like, we're all over that. So what pandemic? No, I'm kidding. But let's look at kind of what the world has looked like for the last 18 months. And this is from STR, and this is the US hotel occupancy and average daily rate stats from February 22nd of 2020. So a good 2, 3, 4 weeks before that giant dip that we all know as the pandemic beginnings, all the way through. This is through September 4th. So this data is just about a week old at this point. And here's the good news. We're definitely on an uptick and we're on an upswing. They're seeing in a lot of markets, they're seeing strong growth. Now, I will tell you that LA's been a little slower to respond, but you guys are not as low, for lack of a better, I know San Francisco, the Bay Area is a mess. San Francisco is struggling. Silicon Valley, that's where I'm at. I'm in San Jose, is definitely hurting comparatively. Business travel is not back. And, then there are other markets. It's our friends in Florida on the beaches where what pandemic, are doing a little bit better. But I think what we're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months, as hopefully we get some control, and I'm just going to cross my fingers that this Delta variant starts to pace down, which is kind of what we're seeing, and that we get back to some semblance of normal. I think we're going to see that the hotels, especially in the LA area, really start to come back strong. So, but I want to talk today about how you're going to do that. and how, what kinds of things can you do to help capture those guests that are traveling. So when it comes to your website, right? And that's really where we're going to focus today, is that website and digital marketing strategies. It's kind of a combination, right? Of the content, the information, the art of the design, the photography, the things available, and the science, which is the technology aspects, which is what I personally love, but we'll get there. So I'm going to start with kind of the art side, because let's be real, as hoteliers, that's what we all love. We all love pretty pictures. We all love showing the gorgeous lobby area. And I still remember the days of going in before the site inspection and setting the room, right? And turning the radio on to a soft music statement and getting the curtains just right. And as hoteliers, we're ingrained with that art side of things. So let's start there, because it's an important piece. And so when we're thinking through what we're doing, you need to think about how our customers find us, right? They're inspired by an idea, they do their research, they start to kind of look over things, and then they finally make a point and buy. So when you think about the customer journey and tying that into revenue, you want to think about the three main touch points: that acquisition area where they find you, and what are you doing along the lines to help people find you, the actual experience. So what is the user experience when they're on your website, when they're on your Facebook profile, when they're getting an e-blast from you? And then the conversion piece: what are you doing to help people pull the trigger and buy? We were having this fun conversation right before the call started about attribution, and how, a lot of owners, they see everything coming direct because that's the last touch point. And so it's like, well, why are you doing all these other things? But it's really important. If you're not getting yourself visible so people can find you, then they're not going to get in your funnel. You're not going to get them to buy from you. So those things are very important to think about as you're translating revenue. And I'm a firm believer that when it comes to the design and the pretty of your website, it always needs to start with thinking about the strategy, with thinking about your goal, as in coming up with a kind of a marketing plan, and maybe not the 5,000 page book that we do every year that then sits on a shelf for 12 months and we pull it out maybe once every 6 months to go, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this. Been there, done that. But thinking about like your current audience, your goals, what are you trying to drive? Hey, we need to drive more midweek business. We need to get more group. We need to understanding like your hotel, right? The branding, the keys, like what are the unique selling points, and how have those changed in the last 18 months? Because I would argue for most of the hotels that I'm talking to, that I've had conversations with, or even that we're working with, that audience and that demographic today is different than what it was 2 years ago, right? Corporate travel's down, group is down. So how are you filling those holes and thinking about that? And what are the demographics? What are the type of customers? I was talking to a very economy brand last year that had a higher RevPAR than a full service luxury 5-star brand, because that's the type of traveler that was still traveling during the pandemic, right? You had, whether it was traveling nurses or construction crews or the essential workers that were going to more budget economy hotels. And so thinking about all of this, and then looking at your competition. One of the things I think gets missed quite frequently when you're developing your strategy is looking at your competitors, and not just the folks that are on your star report, like the ones that are within the 2-mile radius of your hotel, but really looking at, from an online perspective, who competes with you. Because it may not be the hotel right down the street. It may be a hotel 5, 10, 20 miles away that wouldn't necessarily be part of your star comp set, but online competes frequently. And so you want to start there. And then once you have all of that and you've kind of got a game plan, when you're thinking through the design, you really want to be focused on an experience. You want to make sure that you're telling the right experience for who and what you are. And of course, this is actually stock photography, this amount, but beautiful imagery. And but really think about what's your branding, what's your message, what's your goal. And there's probably one or two people are like, yeah, I'm at a branded property, I can't make a pretty website like this. And what I would say is these tips are still important for you and to think about. Look at what the brand has available, and are you leveraging every piece and every component that the brand offers you? So for example, I know of one brand that has some options within their layout structure for the website where you can change. So instead of maybe one big block of content, you can have like a 2-up or 3-up panels, right? So you break it into 3 different chunks or sections. And what that does is it helps your content become more scannable. You don't have those big bulky paragraphs, but you have to ask for that. They don't automatically do it for everybody. I know another brand that offers things that you can build within the confines of their site for modules. So you can have their outlet modules. You can have, like, if you have meetings, you can have some additional content that you can add around meetings and events, again, in a very visual, broken up content and information, but in a way that's appealing to meeting planners or to guests looking for for food and beverage. And so because again, whenever I'm talking about websites, the first thing I hear is, well, I'm a brand, none of this applies. And I would argue it's really important for you to, yes, you can't necessarily build an independent website and do every single thing you may want to do, but there's probably a lot of options through your brand to make your content more readable, to make the site, to provide that experience. It's all about building an experience of who and what your property is and what you have to offer. And I'll show you an example. So this is a hotel that had a website, very nice looking, large hero image, but had more like, big block of content and text, right? So they changed their website around. If you look, even the main top imagery, right, there you still have a navigation bar, you still have a book now button, like none of those kinds of components for conversion have changed. But what did change is you see how it's broken up, and my team likes to call it snackable content, right? Like little bites of content, little bits of information, because the average user today, by the way, they do read. So everybody says like, oh, people don't read, like not true, but they're not going to sit there and scroll through 20 different paragraphs of content. So make it bite-sized, give them the pieces of information they need. And this property made these changes, I think, earlier this year, and they saw huge growth. And a lot of the data that I have in here, a lot of the stuff, we've been doing comparisons to 2019, because let's be real, we all just want to forget that 2020 even existed. So doing those, to 2019 comparisons, and they saw huge growth. They almost a 400% increase in traffic to the website. Great data, great results. Another example, right? Beautiful, large imagery. This scrolls down, has snackable content, and then makes it really easy. You notice on the far left, there's that hamburger menu. If I click on that, it pulls down this big drop down, and I can very easily, within one click, get to the information I need to on the page. So again, the whole idea here when we're talking about the art of your content is to really give a good experience and make it easy for the user to navigate through the site and get to where they want to go. Because the whole idea, once you have them, and we'll talk about ways to get them, but once you have them, let's be real, you want them to convert. Who cares if 1 million people come to this website, but nobody books a reservation? Nobody books an open table or eats in your restaurant. And Diana, I'll ask you, the one, the before and after was the Cambria LAX. So I'm not sure if that was the one. The one before that was a mock-up with some stock photography for a project I can't talk about due to an NDA. But the one that showed the before and after was the Cambria LAX. So hopefully that helps. And then this is a How collection. I'm trying to pull in some Los Angeles examples as we go along as well. So we've talked about the art. So I'm going to kind of art, content, science alphabetically. You think about, you get someone on your website, you want to build trust, right? You want them to think of you as an authoritative source and capture that demand. So let's talk about content. And I'm going to high overview and I'm going to walk into a lot more detail. But first of all, look at what you have today and how can you make your existing content perform better? And again, I would argue brand, non-brand, this can be done for any website. Think about how you, again, the visualization of that content. So how do you lay it out in a way that's easy for them to read? How do you amplify that content? How do you then look at new gaps, new opportunities? And we'll talk about some different tools that can help in that research. Again, SEO friendliness, talk a little bit about that more in the technology section. And then of course, looking at the data, and our team talks a lot about an iterative approach, right? So really trying to, you guys ever heard, consistency is key, right? It's, if I'm trying to lose weight, which I am, I can go all in on exercise for 2 days. I'm going to do 5,000 push-ups a day. And I'm probably going to last, I'm not going to last a day, let's be real. But I'm probably going to last a day or two, and I'm going to just give up and I'm going to go right back to eating that large pizza that's leftovers or sitting in the fridge. But if you start small, hey, I'm going to do 2 push-ups a day, 5 push-ups a day, right? Small, and kind of build up before you know it. And if you can do that, you can see build habits. So it's the same thing with your content. Like, you should be looking at this on a regular basis and then thinking about content in all of its different phases. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. Now, anybody that knows me knows we got to talk a little bit about technology and talk even more. But content, so gosh, when I started at Milestone and back in 2007, it was really easy to do all this, and but the whole concept of SEO. You built a website, you would talk about your Burbank hotel or Los Angeles hotel or Long Beach hotel several times within the confines of your content. So our Long Beach hotel is near the beach in Long Beach, and blah 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 blah. And then you'd get some links to that site and you'd rank fairly well. Over the years, the search engines have, first of all, too many people have tried to spam that method when it didn't make sense. They weren't really relevant for those terms. They were just trying to game the system. And so the search engines have moved more towards conversational search. If you remember in the early days, sites like Ask Jeeves, where you would ask something in the form of a question. And now you have, and then we went to the phase before mobile, remember, this is the year of mobile, this is the year of mobile, this is the year of mobile. I think it was about 3 or 4 years before it was truly the year of mobile. And so on your mobile phone, you had to type, and I don't know about you guys, I have really fat fingers, right? Like trying to type. And so searches got really short again. And now with voice search, now with conversational search, we're back to most people when they're on a search engine are asking a question. They may not use a question mark. They may not, what is the best place to say in Los Angeles that has a outdoor pool, right? They may say LA Hotels outdoor pool, but they're still asking these questions. And so what the search engines are doing is really trying to understand the context of those questions. And I've got a little bit more in the technical session, but we're going to talk about entities and voice search and schema, but really think about it in terms of how are you best answering questions? How are you best providing information to that guest? And I'm going to back it up with a little bit of research. Now, this, you're probably looking at going, oh my, well, you may be going, ooh, look at all the pretty colors. Or you may be going, oh my God, what is this? Which I think the first time I saw it, I was like, what the heck does this all mean? This is research. So we have a whole, the Milestone Research Division that looks at data. They're like data science geeks. And what they've seen in trends And this is a subset of about almost 600 websites, looking from pre-pandemic to, this was through May. What kind of traffic drove visibility, like drove links to or clicks to the websites, and what kind of drove visibility within the search? And what we saw is that things like FAQs, question-oriented content, rose as about 23% of traffic and visibility, right? So FAQs, thinking through content and how you're answering questions, are very, very important as part of a strategy. And then we notice things like your knowledge panel. When you think of Google My Business, when you search your hotel by name in that box that shows up on the far right. So having that local consistency is also very important. But the reason I show this is really to highlight and think about it, 23% is questions. That's a fifth of all, right, of everything. So really important to think through how you're going to answer that. So let's talk about how you're going to do it and give me some tools. And by the way, I hate animation, so I'm just going to go there. So let's start with how you think through what people are searching for. What kind of phrases are you ranking for? How are you doing? And where is their opportunity? So there's a couple different tools I'm going to give you. And then there's a third that's not listed here that I'm going to tell you about. So Google Search Console is kind of, think of it like the back end X-ray into your website. It's like a layer above Google Analytics. And if you don't know what it is or you don't have access, definitely talk to your provider. This is one area where if you're a brand, they're not going to, let's just be real, they're not going to give it to you. But there's other tools out there, SEMrush, SimilarWeb. There's another tool called SpyFu that will help give you insight where you can look at yourself. You can also look at you versus your comp set and look at where you're seeing good visibility on the search engine results, where you're seeing your competitors are showing up well and you're not. So this gives you ideas for topic research, for questions research, for things that you can do to improve your content. There's another site, and I'm sure Craig used the example before, Answer the Public, which is a great site to go to search, like to do Los Angeles hotels and see what guests are asking for relevant to Los Angeles hotels, and then using that. And once you kind of have an idea of the topics and the type of content, then you map that to, first of all, how relevant is it to the hotel and the business? And then think through, we talk about full funnel coverage. So again, thinking through the customer journey, right? You want to have content that's going to help build exposure and awareness. If every piece of your content is around that transaction piece, like book me, buy me, love me, like people are going to get bored, annoyed. I don't know about you guys, I stopped following. Like I've seen competitors like High Tech's coming up, right? Like come visit our booth at High Tech, which is great once or twice, but 50 times in a row without any other content gets kind of old and annoying. So really think through creating content that's about conversation and about getting people information, and then awareness, and then conversion. And we can, I only have so much time. I could probably talk for another 5 hours, but we can go in more depth if you want a later time on kind of how some of those things will be. But thinking through, like I said, what's going to drive interest, what's going to spark people, looking at the market, and then start by looking at your existing content. And can you just tweak some things in what you have now to improve it? And then look at, are there things you can do to add content? And again, whether you're a brand or an independent, there typically are options to add pages of content around different topics. And if you can show even to the brand, like, hey, here's why I want to do these things, they're usually on board. They may tweak the strategy a little bit, but they're usually on board as long as it follows brand guidelines. And the other thing I would say, obviously if you can, and this is where being an independent gives you a little more data, but track what's happening. Do you see, hey, we did this and we saw this level of improvement. We saw more visibility. We saw more people, traffic coming to the website, and hopefully that translates into revenue. Lastly, this should not be a one and done. You should be thinking about your content every, 6 months, maybe even more frequently, depending upon the market. What I would argue, be very careful. Don't just like Don't just change content for the sake of changing content. Know why, know what you're trying to achieve first. And also, it's not just about, hey, we're going to update the meta tag on the 2nd, 5th, and 8th month of the year. Like, that's not helpful, right? It's really about the body content and looking at, what's out there. Now, just some more data to show why, right? Google wants you to answer these questions. The more that this is all the different components where you can see that Google is providing answers based on questions. Scenic Drive, South Bay Area, the 10 best San Francisco hotels. That's booking. Can we get, you see Sprinkle, the knowledge graph, all those questions and answers. People also ask. So there's a lot of areas where people are within Google. It's not just the search result. There's tons of different areas where questions come into play. And somebody asked about additional examples on informational content to drive interest. I have some in the coming up in just a minute that I think will be very valuable as you're thinking through that. Let's start with FAQs. So do you have FAQs on your website? Are you providing answers to some of the frequently asked questions? And talk to your desk staff, your concierge. You're going to start to get a feel for a lot of questions that they're getting daily that maybe you can answer on the website to help drive that visibility. And what we've seen is when you're doing this, again, this is based on our research, and the link here, there's a whole study, to download, is that the websites that have FAQ and the technology around that see better click-through rates, see better rankings. In other words, they're showing up higher in the search result, and they tend to see improved impressions and clicks. 42% better click-through rate on a mobile device, right? 11.5% increase in impressions. And we've done this at scale. We've incorporated things into a few different, like a quick service brand that, I'm not allowed to tell you their name, but it's great. I can say they have golden arches, and they saw like a 30% increase in non-brand search, right? So just adding this content and the technology behind it can have great results. Now, you asked about informational content, landing pages, blogs, talking about the things to do in your market. Many hotels completely miss the boat here. Because let's be real, unless you're, the Biltmore in Carolina, maybe the Hotel Del, right? You're like one of those famous hotels with a following and a background. Like, people aren't coming to Santa Clara to stay at the Hyatt Santa Clara because, oh my gosh, they're coming to right now I don't know why people are coming, but let's pretend they're coming to Santa Clara for, I guess Great America is open, so maybe they're going to Great America, or I would say a conference, or LA. They're going. I went to Universal Studios earlier this year as part of a California staycation. Drove through the state. By the way, I hate driving. I hate driving through the state. It was fine. I mean, we enjoyed it, but I like to fly. But anyway, coming up with ideas with why people are coming to your market. What are the attractions? What are the things to do? What's happening in your backyard and in your broader market? And then talking about that on your website, having content and information about things to do. We actually work with a group in New York that do walking tours. They actually partner with a company and they do walking tours. All 6 of their hotels are in a very centralized area. And so it's easy operationally for them. But are there things you can do? I have a property in a small market up here, not really Santa Cruz, but not Santa, kind of in the mountains. And they've published a bunch of like hiking information because they're near a bus stop and they're near like parks that have a lot of hiking in the mountains out here, right? So think about those things, right? Giving that strategy. Now, what we've seen is, again, huge increase in website sessions, in content and page views, things of that nature. And then the other thing I would highly recommend is if you're in a market, and hello, I know there's nothing to do in Los Angeles. I know it's a really small market. Let's be real, it's not. Promoting local events. What's happening in the market? Have an event calendar. Talk about that. We've seen huge increases in clicks to the event calendar and clicks to the booking engine for websites from event calendar listings, and just in page views for event details. And I'll show you a great local example. Thanks to the phenomenal Miss Libby, that, you know, if you look at this, I did this search Friday, the Dodgers and Padres were playing last weekend. And if I searched for Dodgers versus Padres hotel, the first two results are the Cambria LAX and the Hotel Amarano, which both have event calendars and have content around events. And the interesting thing, they're showing up above the stadium. They're showing up above Hotel Planner in this example, TripAdvisor, you know, all of those other sites. Now, that doesn't always happen. Like, let's be real, just because you throw an event on your website doesn't mean you're going to miraculously be number one for all things. That's not how SEO works, but it's a start. And so thinking through what are the big events that actually drive people who are going to stay overnight in your hotel or eat in your restaurant. Like, maybe that's the play. Maybe it's more local and regional and they're not going to stay overnight, but you're trying to drive traffic to your restaurants, right? Thinking about ancillary revenue. It's not just rooms, but I know we're going to focus a lot on rooms today. And then sharing that content on social media. So you can take that experiential content, that information, right? You've got your posts on social media, and then linking back to content that you have on the website. So you can talk about things to do near the hotel, and that links back to a package. Some of our hotels, like these guys, actually partner with a local photographer to come out and to use that content and that imagery for packages and specials. And then, in this case, they also like weddings, smaller events, privacy, right? Especially here in the state, because let's be real, not everyone, and I'm not going to, like I say, I'm going to stereotype a little bit, but Californians seem to be a little more concerned with safety, security, really trying to think through, like, I want to know I'm going to be safe when I travel. And so the more you can talk about those types of things, hey, the folks that are having weddings or meetings, it's a bit smaller. How do we customize our content and tailor to that? And then lastly, amplifying that content, right? So there's a lot of talk about first versus third party data, which I'm not going to get into. That's a whole nother content topic. And there's 2 sessions on that at the Marketing Strategy Conference. But using your email marketing list and amplifying that content, right? Content about the page, the experience, generating that excitement, maybe incentivize, maybe offering value adds, different special offers. And then again, even today, still talking about that safe and clean messaging, but taking the content that you built on your website, on your social channels, and then amplifying that with email marketing, we've seen great results. We've seen clients really improve their email open rates, improve their email conversion rates. And so it's all, again, it kind of comes back to, it's all this holistic strategy. It's not just one thing, it's being consistent in how you apply it everywhere. I'm going to show you one other example of ideas to amplify content. This graph is going to get a little crazy, and not every channel is going to be relevant. So I'm not saying go everywhere, but start by looking at your valuable channels, right? So you've got your original content. You have that information on your website. Again, is it blog posts? Is it video? We could argue here, is it FAQs? Is it emails? Do you have influencers, right? Infographics. Infographics are popular in a lot of industries. Then it's taking that and, again, can you, that local SEO. So you can take your Google My Business question and push that out, push out content that's relevant in your listings management. Knowledge panel, pushing it on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You go more videos, blog, Reddit. You want to go more, and let's get just crazy, right? Link profiles. So don't do all of this, but pick the channels that make the most sense for where you're at and also make the most sense for where your audience is at. If you're going after group business, you should be posting some things on LinkedIn, right? Like that's where the meeting planners are. They're also kind of on Facebook, believe it or not. But look at where your audience, the type of travelers you're trying to target, the type of, guests, again, meetings, IBT, group, individual leisure. And is it if you're going after groups, is it the Smurf groups, the soccer tournament or the folks coming in for the football game, or is it that, Oracle's huge conference, right? So, and then looking through those channels. So there was a great question. So I'm going to stop for a second before I go on to technology. Fun to share to announce important calendar dates, but this is really hard to maintain on the website. What is the best way to manage a daily calendar of events? More than just staffing, any tips you can provide? So it's such a great question, and it's such a problem, right? I will tell you, and I will try and unmilestone commercial this as much as possible, but we actually created an event calendar that has a feed that's built in that's coming from sources. So all the hotel has to do is push a button to accept it and everything publishes, because you are spot on. I remember back in the early days, I used because everybody wants an event calendar, right? But nobody would populate it. We're all so busy. We're doing so many things. And I would tell people, like, please don't buy this. Like, don't. And then, oh, no. And I would show them 4 other examples of hotels that said the same thing. And they had empty calendars and be like, this looks awful. Don't do this. Oh, no. And inevitably they would do it. And I'd have another example. I think, and you're right. It's not just staffing. I think personally, the best thing you can do with anything like that is to batch task it. So you figure out where you're going to get your basic information from. Sometimes something comes in here or there one-off, but hey, we're going to use the CVB calendar and the arena's website calendar. These are the 2 or 3 sources we're going to look at. And you create a process document and you say, hey, on the 1st of the month or the whatever day, right? The date doesn't matter, but once a month, I've got links to these 3 sites. I'm going to click in and go to these sites and look for new events that were added that are relevant in the next 90 days. And then I'm going to get that content and add it to my website. So if you create a repeatable process around it, it's doable. It comes down to, quite honestly, I don't want to say importance. That just sounds wrong. But for example, I have some things that repeatable processes on a monthly basis, right? Like I want to review this information. I want to look at these things. And there are some months that, quite honestly, I go, yep, not happening. I'm swamped. I got too many other things, and it gets pushed out to the next month. So I would say if you're going to do that, you just got to make sure that it does not get pushed out, right? Or it doesn't get pushed out more than once, because it's easy to just kind of go and forget. But that's how I would handle that. That's how I did handle that when I was on the hotel side, because I did have information about events on my website, and I would, like I said, go in about once a month and look at 2 or 3 different sources and add information as appropriate. So does that help answer the question? Let me know if there's anything else on that end. Okay, and then so let's talk about my favorite, technology. So now that you've got the art, you've got the content, it's about the science. And there's a lot of things you can do. And again, some of this, if you're a brand, sorry, just hold on. It's still cool and worth knowing. On the mobile front, right? Because we all have these phones, my Mickey Mouse phone, we all have these phones. We're all in our hands all the time. It's about, you want things to load fast. You want to be able to engage. So there's a couple different technologies. I'm going to focus on AMP, or accelerated mobile pages, for a minute. This is a Google technology that allows your site to load ultra fast. And this is something you need to work with your provider on. But let me show you the power of this. So these are search results around spas in Mexico. The search was done here in the US. On the left is an accelerated mobile page site. This is an older, this has a little lightning bolt. Google's actually done away with that recently. But so this is an AMP page. On the left-hand side is a non-accelerated mobile page. And when I press the play button here on the video, we'll give it a second. And you see on the left, that website already loaded. And on the right, not only is it loading, but do you see how everything's kind of moving around? And it's loaded, but it kind of shifted and moved. That gives a poor user experience. So you want to make sure, like I always recommend after sessions like this, go Google your hotel and see what comes up. Go get on your phone and see how quickly, does your site load well? Does it look good? Does it provide a good experience? Could someone get in and book a reservation wherever they're at? And if it's really slow or it's really like it's not working, talk to your provider. What can we do to improve this? Now, another thing on the technology side that's incredibly important to think about is ADA conformance. And I know as hotels, we're all like, oh, yeah, this has been so in the news. In fact, I saw a news story up here. Our local news did an interview with a few different hotels up in the Bay Area talking about this because it's become such a problem. There's a great free plugin, wave.webaim.org. It's WebAIM, it's the website accessibility evaluation tool. And they do a technical backend check of the website to make sure that you don't have any ADA conformance errors. And the idea here is really what this is all about. It's about accessibility, right? We want our information to be available. If someone has a visual disability, they can't read, and they're using a screen reader, you want them to be able to access your information on the website. But if you're not careful in how it's built, the screen reader won't be able to read the information. That's a problem, right? You're excluding potential guests, and you're also at risk of a lawsuit. So really important to have, like, to go through this and look, see what kind of, and I focus on errors, and then I look at contrast errors. Contrast errors just means is your, like you see my white and blue, I guess white and blue above my head here on the milestone. Is it a sharp enough contrast that you can easily read? Or if you have like the blue milestone over the white, if that was like a light gray, it might be difficult for people to read. And so those are the kinds of things that you're looking for. But content, so technology is important. Content's also really important to have those things. Now, conversion side on technology, it's thinking through, again, I love our solutions person, leave no dead ends. Always be thinking about conversion, and it's not just book a room. It could be engagement, getting them to go to another page, getting more information. It could be filling out an RFP. It could be doing a reservation on OpenTable or just coming into the restaurant, right? So it's always thinking about all the different ways to get that guest to convert. And then it's looking at the science behind the technology. So again, snackable content, rich paragraphs with topics and information, mapping things out. And then we tie this into like all the Google algorithms as far as site speed and schema, because what that does is helps improve the visibility for the site, helps get you more organic traffic, and ultimately we've seen that lead to more revenue. Another big thing that a lot of hotels, so as you're looking through all of this in technology side, talk to your provider about conversion rate optimization. And there's some actually real low cost tools, even Google Analytics has some of this, where you can do heat maps. You can look at, does that user scroll all the way down? Are they just looking at the top? Where, if you show different options, hey, this, they're likely to click on this button. No, they're likely to click here. And so you can start to see where your conversion rates improve and make changes to the website, right? You're doing different tests and then, oh, this one got a 5% conversion. This one only got a 1%. Well, that's the clear winner. And then make those updates. Another thing is looking at technology around shopping cart abandonment, looking at technology around getting, the recovery, getting people to come back, sending them emails, when they start to make a reservation, they don't finish. And what we've seen is doing those little things where you're like, hey, don't go, have a discount, or, or value add, or hey, give us your email and we'll send you a note and remind you to book, has led to great increases in actual, revenue coming back. I've seen hotels easily capture, $15, $20, $30,000 just from sending out notes and trying to recover people who didn't book right away. So these win back emails, these guys actually saw a 41% increase in revenue from shopping carts that were booking engines that were originally abandoned. Then you can do fun things around limited time offers, countdown calendars, again, movement, fun stuff with special offers, kind of give it a sense of urgency. And again, we've seen huge results with doing that kind of thing. And then lastly, just kind of tying it together. So this is highlighting Libby, but this is an example of a hotel in your market that launched a new website during the height of COVID, right? And let's be real, but have seen record highs in the months since. They could continue to improve by doing these little things that continue to add up. Again, conversion, again, and improving growth. So the potential, right? This property implemented many of the things that we actually discussed today, but they also felt the effects of COVID, as you can see, the huge decline, but they're currently experiencing record highs. In fact, we looked at bookings 2021 to 2019 year to date, and they were up 36% to 2019. So these little things consistently can do great things for your overall marketing. On that note, so what does it all mean? And then I'm going to wrap up and turn it back over to Libby. Really, consistency is key. Creating your website using trends that provide a good user experience, the snackable content, the little icons, things that make it easy to navigate through. So look at opportunities today. How do you tweak your website? How do you improve readability? And again, brand, non-brand. Content still king. Content comes in many forms. The words, the imagery, the icons. Think about how you can amplify that content as well. And then just remember that marketing your hotel, part art, part science, part luck. Let's be real. And then lastly, I'm attending. I know Craig's attending. Hopefully you're attending too. So as Mitch and Libby talked earlier, there's two conferences, the Marketing Strategy Conference and ROC. They're back to back this year. This is the conference that's historically in New York in January. I am a co-chair of the conference, so I'm biased, but I got to tell you, there's some amazing content. One of the sessions is all about finding ancillary revenue. There's several things on data. There's several, we've got both days have panels with chief commercial officers talking about things that you need to do to be successful. So really, if your travel travel policies and your budgets allow, I would highly recommend getting out there to Dallas. It's going to be a great event, and it'll be so nice to be in person and see people and not, in the third wall, like live and in person versus virtually. The conference is taking even though it's in Texas, the conference is mandating masks. It'll be, it's meant to be a very safe conference for all. On that note, Libby, Mitch, everybody here in LA, thank you so much for letting me be a part of today. I don't know, Libby, if you saw any other questions that I missed, but let me know.
Yes, thank you. There's a couple that I think I can screenshot them and send them to you to follow up. One was, can you share some examples on more informational content to drive interest and awareness versus focused on conversion only?
Yeah, and I think that boils down to those event calendars, the things to do, really talking about the market, almost taking a CVB-like approach is where you get that informational content.
And then another question that Diane posed was interested in new website examples. I speak for Hotel Amarano. Milestone does manage our website. It's 100% serendipitous that we're all together today for the chapter meeting. And I cannot take credit for the extraordinary performance that this hotel is experiencing. It happened before I arrived. I've only been at the hotel for about 5 weeks, but I feel I'm in very good hands. And as I mentioned earlier today, please link in with, no pun intended, please message Tammy through her LinkedIn and become part of her audience, if you will. And I think based on that, I just like to, Tammy, lots of time, lots of hours went into that content. I'm going to be using a lot of that to prepare for my 2022 business plan. So thank you in advance for saving me that time and all that brain trust to be used. I look forward to coming back around the table with my milestone representative so we can continue for 2022.